The first time I see James Peterson dance, I'm 18 and terrified, clutching my acceptance letter to Juilliard like it might dissolve if I loosen my grip. He's a second-year student performing at the orientation showcase, and I can't breathe watching him move. It's like his body is telling secrets the rest of us are too afraid to whisper. I grew up in Millfield, Pennsylvania, population 8,642, where my only dance partner was a broomstick in our cramped living room. Mom would come home from her second shift at the diner to find me spinning across our threadbare carpet, the TV flickering with recorded Broadway shows I'd watched so many times the VHS tapes were wearing thin. "You're something special, Lizzie," she'd say, her eyes heavy with exhaustion, but still managing to sparkle when I danced. "Miss Porter says she's never seen anyone with your gift." Miss Porter was our town's only dance teacher, teaching ballet, tap, and jazz in a converted garage with a portable bar and mirrors that distorted your reflection if you stood too close to the edges. But she'd trained in New York decades ago, and in Millfield that made her practically a Broadway legend. "You have a once-in-a-generation talent," she told me during my senior year, helping me with Juilliard applications after hours. "But talent isn't enough in New York. You need to be steel inside. They'll try to break you." I nod like I understand, but I don't. How could I? My competitions have been small-town affairs where moms bring homemade cookies and everyone gets a participation trophy even when they mess up. The night before I leave for Juilliard, Mom and I sit on our porch swing, the summer air thick around us. "I'm scared," I admit, voicing the fear that's been building for months. She squeezes my hand. "Being scared means you're about to do something brave." "What if I'm not good enough?" "You've never been just good enough, Lizzie. You've always been extraordinary." She brushes my hair back, her waitress hands rough against my skin. "Promise me something. Promise you'll remember who you are even when they try to tell you differently." I promise, not knowing who they are or how hard they'll try. The next morning, I board a bus with everything I own in 2 suitcases. One is filled with clothes. The other, more precious, contains my dance shoes, each pair wrapped in tissue paper like tiny glass treasures. Juilliard doesn't care that I was the star of Millfield. Here, everyone was the star of somewhere, and most of them had advantages I never did. Private coaches, summers at intensive programs, parents who were performers themselves. My first day, I stand at the bar, feeling like an imposter in a room full of prodigies. The teacher, Miss Kovalenko, walks between us with a wooden stick, occasionally tapping someone's leg or arm to correct position. When she reaches me, she stops. "Your technique is..." She pauses, searching for the word unrefined. "But there's something interesting happening. You dance from somewhere deep. Don't lose that." It's not exactly praise, but it's enough for me to exhale. That's when I first speak to James. He's at the bar opposite me, and I've been trying not to stare. Up close, he's even more striking. Sharp cheekbones, dark eyes that miss nothing, and a confidence that seems to alter the atmosphere around him. "She doesn't give compliments easily," he says, nodding toward Miss Kovalenko. "You must be good." "I don't feel good here," I admit, surprised by my own honesty. His smile is quick, transformative. "None of us did at first. I'm James." "Liz Mitchell," I say, extending my hand. "Mitchell," he repeats, testing it. "I'll remember that." Over the next few months, I work harder than I've ever worked in my life. My feet bleed through point shoes, my muscles scream, and I stay in the practice rooms long after everyone else has left. Sometimes I catch James watching me during class, his gaze analytical rather than admiring. Then comes the day that changes everything. "Mitchell," Miss Kovalenko calls out after class. "Peterson needs a new partner for the winter showcase. His is injured. You'll do..." It's not a question. James stands beside her, his expression unreadable. "Are you sure?" I ask, looking between them. "No," James says with a half smile. "But we'll find out." Our first rehearsal is awkward. I'm stiff with nerves, hyper-aware of every place his hands touch my waist, my arms. "You're thinking too much," he says after an hour of frustration. "Stop trying to impress me." "I'm not..." "You are," he cuts me off, "and it's making you dance scared. I need a partner, not a shadow." Something in me snaps, "Then stop treating me like I should be grateful for the opportunity." I expect anger, but he laughs instead, a genuine sound that transforms his face. "There you are. Now dance with me, Mitchell, for real this time." And I do. I let go of the fear, the self-consciousness, the constant comparison. For the first time since arriving at Juilliard, I dance like I used to in my living room in Millfield with my whole heart exposed. When we finish, we're both breathing hard, facing each other in the middle of the studio. Something has shifted between us. I can feel it like static electricity on my skin. Well, he says quietly, that changes things. The winter showcase makes us the talk of the school. People who never noticed me before suddenly know my name. James and I spend hours in the studio together, developing a partnership that feels like a secret language. When we dance, there's a conversation happening that only we understand. Late nights turn into early mornings. He tells me about growing up in Manhattan with parents who pushed him toward dance from the moment he could walk. I tell him about Mom and Miss Porter and broomstick partners. You dance like someone who's never been told how it's supposed to feel, he says one night as we stretch after rehearsal. It's what makes you interesting. Is that your way of saying I have bad technique? I tease. No, he says, suddenly serious. It's my way of saying you have something the rest of us lost a long time ago. I fall in love with him gradually, and then all at once, like stepping off a cliff I didn't know was there. I don't tell him. There's too much at stake. But sometimes I catch him looking at me when he thinks I'm not aware, and I wonder. By spring of my first year, James and I have performed together in 3 showcases. We've developed a reputation, the technically perfect upperclassman and his emotionally fearless partner. We push each other, challenge each other, create something together that neither of us could achieve alone. Then Marcus Whitfield comes to Juilliard. Marcus is Broadway royalty, a choreographer with 3 Tony Awards and a reputation for launching careers. He's working on a new show, something experimental that blends classical ballet with contemporary movement, and he's looking for fresh talent. He's watching the spring showcase, James tells me, grabbing my hands. This could be it, Mitchell, our shot. I try to temper my excitement. He'll be looking at you, not me. He'll be looking at us, James corrects. We're a package deal now. I want to ask what that means for our partnership, for us. But there's no time. The showcase is in 2 weeks, and James is obsessed with perfection. We create a piece together that tells the story of 2 people finding and losing each other repeatedly, always returning to the same point of connection. It's the most challenging choreography I've ever attempted, but also the most honest. Dancing it feels like opening a vein. The night of the showcase, I peek through the curtains and see Marcus Whitfield in the front row. My stomach drops. I can't do this, I whisper to James as we wait in the wings. He turns me to face him, hands on my shoulders. Yes, you can. Remember when you told me about dancing in your living room? How no one was watching but you didn't care? I nod. Dance with me like that, like no one's watching. But everyone is watching, especially Marcus Whitfield, whose eyes never leave us as we perform. I feel naked under the lights, exposed in a way that's both terrifying and exhilarating. When we finish, there's a moment of complete silence before the applause starts. After the showcase, James and I are called to Miss Kovalenko's office. Marcus Whitfield is there, casual in designer jeans, but with eyes that miss nothing. That was extraordinary, he says, extending his hand. David Keller, I produce for the West Side Theater Group. My mouth goes dry. West Side is small but respected, known for developing new work that occasionally transfers to larger venues. Eliza Mitchell, I reply, shaking his hand. Mitchell, he repeats. And for a painful moment, I'm reminded of James saying my name that first day at Juilliard. I'd like to talk to you and Sophia about developing this piece further. We have a slot open in our spring season. Sophia materializes at my side, eyes wide. Are you serious? Deadly, David says. That solo especially. There's something there, raw, honest storytelling through movement. I'd like to see it expanded into a full-length work. Later, after everyone has gone and we're clearing out our dressing room, Sophia grabs my shoulders. Do you realize what just happened? This is it, Liz. The door cracking open. It's a small theater, I say, tempering my own excitement. Not Broadway. It's a start, and more importantly, it's on your own terms. She grins. We need to celebrate, right now. We end up at a dive bar in the East Village, toasting with cheap champagne. For the first time in years, I allow myself to hope, to imagine a future in dance that doesn't end in humiliation. To second acts, Sophia says, raising her glass. To second acts, I echo, thinking of Mom's letter. I wish she could have seen me tonight. The reviews appear online the next morning. They're mostly focused on Sophia's choreography, but 3 mention me specifically. Newcomer Eliza Mitchell brings a haunting vulnerability to her solo. Mitchell's performance carries the emotional weight of someone who has lived the resurrection her movement depicts. Watch for Mitchell's name in future productions. She has that rare quality that draws the eye even in group sections. I read them through tears, saving screenshots to a folder on my phone. Proof that I wasn't imagining it. I can still dance. I can still connect. David Keller calls 2 days later. He wants to meet about the spring production. Not just dancing this time. He and Sophia want me to co-choreograph, to help develop the piece into a full-length work. We want to tell your story, Sophia explains when I express doubt. Not literally, but the essence of it. Falling, getting back up, loss and recovery. Why my story, I ask? It's not special. Are you kidding? Girl from small town gets into Juilliard, faces devastating setback, disappears for years, then returns stronger? It's practically a ballet already. She squeezes my hand. And you have something most dancers never develop, a genuine point of view. Pain has given you perspective. I think about it for days. Creating a work inspired by my own journey would mean facing everything I've tried to forget. Juilliard, James, the humiliation, the years wasted, but it would also mean reclaiming that narrative, transforming it from a story of failure into one of resilience. Okay, I tell Sophia finally, let's do it. But I don't want my name on it. She frowns. Why not? Because I'm not ready to be that exposed. I'll help create it. I'll dance in it, but I don't want the program to say based on the life of Eliza Mitchell. Fine, she agrees reluctantly. For now. We title the piece Phoenix. Over the next few months, we develop it into a 60-minute work for 6 dancers, with me taking the central role. The structure follows a woman's journey from aspiration to devastation to rebirth, told through a series of solos, duets, and group sections. The most challenging part to choreograph is the middle section, the fall. I have to revisit my darkest moments, the humiliation at Juilliard, the years of grief and denial in Millfield. Transforming that pain into movement is both excruciating and cathartic. By opening night at the West Side Theater, Phoenix has evolved into something I'm genuinely proud of. The small venue is packed, friends, colleagues, and enough press to make my stomach churn with nerves. Places in 5, the stage manager calls. I stand in the wings, breathing deeply. This isn't Juilliard. I'm not the same frightened girl I was then. I've earned this moment, fought my way back to it. You're going to be amazing, Sophia whispers, appearing beside me, just like in rehearsal. But it's not like rehearsal, it's better. From the moment I step on stage, I'm transported, living inside the story we've created. The audience disappears. The critics disappear. There's only the movement, the music, the raw emotional truth we're sharing. When the lights come down at the end, there's that suspended moment of silence. Then, thunderous applause. We take our bows, sweaty and exhilarated, and I feel something unlock in my chest. Pride. Not in being perfect, but in being authentic. The reviews are glowing. Phoenix announces the arrival of a significant new voice in dance. Mitchell performs with a rare combination of technical prowess and emotional authenticity. A stunning meditation on resilience that leaves the audience breathless. 3 weeks into the run, David calls a meeting. We have interest, he says without preamble. From Uptown. Sophia gasps softly beside me. Broadway. Not quite Broadway, but close. The Patterson Theater on 54th. They're looking for something to fill an unexpected gap in their summer season. Something fresh. The Patterson is a 500-seat theater just outside the official Broadway district. Still prestigious, still a major leap from our current 150-seat venue. They want to transfer the show as is? I ask, hardly believing it. With some expansion, David says. They're thinking 90 minutes instead of 60, a slightly larger cast. But essentially, yes, same concept, same creative team. He looks directly at me. Same lead dancer. When would this happen? Sophia asks. 3 months from now, if we say yes. David leans forward. And we should say yes. This is the opportunity of a lifetime for all of us. My mind races. A larger theater means more exposure, more pressure, but also the chance to share this work, our work, with a broader audience. There's one more thing, David adds, looking at me. They want to bill it as your comeback story. They want your name on it, Eliza, as co-choreographer and star. My pulse quickens. Why? Because audiences love redemption stories. And frankly, it's a better marketing angle than new dance piece by unknown choreographers. He has the grace to look apologetic. I'm just being honest about how the business works. I need time to think, I say, standing abruptly. I walk for hours that night, up and down the Manhattan grid, considering what this means. Stepping fully back into the light, claiming my story publicly, risking being seen and potentially rejected again. But it's different this time. I'm not an 18-year-old seeking validation. I'm a woman who's survived loss, who's rebuilt herself piece by piece. And this show isn't just a showcase for technical skill, it's an honest expression of everything I've experienced. The next morning, I call David. I'm in, I say. Let's do it. Excellent. I can hear the relief in his voice. One more thing, they want us to consider adding a male lead, someone to play the antagonist partner in your journey. Any thoughts? I freeze. We've been using ensemble dancers to represent the forces that challenge the Phoenix character, but never a specific male counterpart. Adding one would make the story more literal, closer to my actual experience. I'll think about it, I say carefully. That night, I discuss it with Sophia. If we add a male lead, it changes the dynamic of the piece, I argue. It becomes more about a relationship than a personal journey. Or it adds another dimension, she counters. Look, I know you're worried it will hit too close to home, but maybe that's exactly why we should do it. Face the demon directly. I've spent years trying to forget James Peterson. And how's that working out for you? She softens her tone. The most powerful art comes from the places that scare us most. I know she's right. The central conflict in my story has always been about betrayal, about having my confidence shattered by someone I trusted. Depicting that dramatically requires a specific antagonist. Fine, I relent, but I have approval over casting, and they need to understand the character isn't just a villain. He's complex, talented, driven. Like all the best antagonists, Sophia agrees. We spend the next week adapting the show for the Patterson expanding sections, clarifying the narrative, writing character descriptions for the new cast members we'll need. The male lead is described as technically brilliant, charismatic, but ultimately self-serving, a dancer who uses others as stepping stones for his own advancement. Casting begins the following month. We see dozens of dancers for the ensemble roles, eventually selecting 8 talented performers who can execute both the technical and emotional aspects of the choreography. For the male lead, we narrow it down to 3 possibilities, all exceptional dancers with the right combination of technique and acting ability. Then, during the final callback session, the casting director approaches me. There's someone else who'd like to audition. He wasn't scheduled, but he's quite persistent. Who? I ask, already reaching for the next resume in my stack. James Peterson. Says he worked with you at Juilliard? The room tilts sideways. What? He saw an article about the show transferring uptown. Apparently, he put 2 and 2 together and realized you were involved. He's quite eager to be considered. My first instinct is to refuse, to say absolutely not, never, under any circumstances, but something stops me. Maybe it's curiosity. Maybe it's the perverse desire to see him audition for me, to have our roles reversed. Or maybe it's the realization that facing him might be the final step in my healing process. Send him in, I say, surprising even myself. Let's see what he's got. The moment James Peterson walks into the studio, 5 years collapse into nothing. He's exactly as I remember, tall, impeccably built, with that same confidence that seems to alter the gravity in any room he enters. Then I notice the differences. Faint lines at the corners of his eyes. A slight guardedness in his expression. He's not the golden boy anymore. He's a dancer in his late 20s, still successful but no longer the next big thing. Eliza, he says, and hearing my name in his voice sends a jolt through me. Thank you for seeing me. Mr. Peterson, I reply, keeping my tone professionally neutral. We're auditioning for the role of Michael today. You've read the character description? A flicker of something, recognition? Discomfort? Crosses his face. Yes, thoroughly. Good. We'll start with a technical combination, then a character study. I nod to the pianist. Whenever you're ready. He dances the combination flawlessly, of course. His technique has only improved since Juilliard clean lines, impressive elevation, precise musicality. But there's something missing, something I can't quite identify until we get to the character study. This section is Michael's solo, after he betrays the protagonist, Sophia explains. He's achieved what he wanted professionally, but there's an emptiness to his success. Show us that tension. James begins the solo, executing each movement with technical perfection. But the emotional quality isn't there, the complexity, the hint of regret beneath the ambition. He's dancing the steps, but not the story. I exchange glances with Sophia, who gives a subtle shrug. He's good, but not connecting with the material. Thank you, Mr. Peterson, I say when he finishes. We'll be in touch. He doesn't leave. Can I try something else? A different approach? I should say no. Should thank him politely and move on to our other candidates. But I'm curious despite myself. What did you have in mind? May I see you dance part of the Phoenix's solo? Just to understand the quality better. It's a reasonable request from a professional perspective. Still, the thought of dancing for James again makes my palms sweat. 5 minutes, I say, stepping onto the floor. I demonstrate the section where Phoenix confronts her betrayer. Raw, vulnerable, but ultimately empowered. When I finish, James is watching me with an intensity that makes me uncomfortable. Again, he says softly, but this time, I'll respond. Without waiting for permission, he joins me on the floor. We haven't danced together in 5 years, but our bodies remember the connection. As I move through the choreography, he improvises responses, not following the combinations we taught him, but creating something new, specific to my movement quality. It's unnerving how quickly we find that old chemistry. But something has changed. I'm not the awestruck first-year student anymore, and he's not the untouchable star. We're equals now, artists with different strengths, different wounds. When we finish, the room is silent. Sophia stares at us, mouth slightly open. Even the pianist seems stunned. Well, I say finally, struggling to remain professional. That was informative. Hire me, James says directly. No one else can dance this role like I can. Because no one else has lived it? I challenge, dropping the pretense. He holds my gaze. Yes. I should say no. Every instinct for self-preservation screams to keep him far away from this project, from my hard-won recovery. But artistically, what just happened was undeniable. The connection between us creates something electric, something audiences would feel instantly. We'll discuss it and let you know, I say, gesturing toward the door. After he leaves, Sophia explodes. What the hell was that? That was James Peterson, I say unnecessarily. I know who he is. I meant, what was that chemistry? That was... She searches for the word, combustible. It's complicated. No kidding. She paces the room. Liz, he's perfect for the role. Technically, and whatever that energy is between you. But if working with him is going to be traumatic... It won't be, I interrupt, surprising myself with my certainty. I'm not that girl anymore. Are you sure? Because what I just saw wasn't entirely professional. It was artistic, I correct her. And yes, it comes from a personal history. But that's exactly what this piece is about, transforming pain into art. Sophia studies me carefully. So you want to cast him? Do I? The question echoes in my mind all day and into the night. Working with James would mean facing my past daily, reopening wounds I've spent years trying to heal. But avoiding him now would be another kind of running away. And the truth I can barely admit to myself, dancing with him again, even briefly, felt like completing a circuit that's been open for years. There's unfinished business between us, artistically if not personally. The next morning, I call Sophia. Let's offer him the role, I say, but with conditions. He needs to understand I'm co-choreographer and lead dancer. This is my show, my vision. If he can't respect that, we go with someone else. I'll have the contract drawn up, she promises. Are you sure about this? No, I admit, but it feels like the right risk to take. James accepts the offer immediately. At our first full company rehearsal, I make the power dynamic clear, addressing the entire cast. Welcome to Phoenix. This piece is personal for me, as some of you may know. It's about falling and rising, about finding strength through vulnerability. I expect everyone to bring their full artistic selves to this process, but also to respect boundaries. This is a professional environment, first and foremost. My eyes meet James's as I say this last part. He gives a slight nod of understanding. The first weeks of rehearsal are intense but productive. We expand the original choreography, develop the characters more fully, deepen the narrative. James proves himself a dedicated company member, always prepared, respectful of the process, genuinely engaged with the material. But there's a distance between us. We speak only about the work, never about our shared past. The unspoken history hangs in the air whenever we're alone together, a conversation we're both avoiding. 3 weeks before opening at the Patterson, we reach the most challenging section of the show, the betrayal scene, where Michael deliberately humiliates the Phoenix character in front of her peers. It's the most directly autobiographical moment in the piece, and I've been dreading it. Let's run it from the beginning of the scene, I instruct the company. Remember, this is the turning point for both characters. It sets in motion everything that follows. The music begins, and James and I move through the complicated partnering sequence that leads to the moment of betrayal. Technically, it's flawless, but emotionally, something's missing. Again, I say when we finish, it needs to hurt more. We run it 3 more times. Each attempt is technically perfect and emotionally hollow. Take 5, everyone, Sophia calls, sensing my frustration. When the other dancers leave, she approaches us. What's not working here? It's too clean, I say, too careful. We're executing the choreography exactly as written, James points out. That's the problem, I snap. You're executing it, not living it. Sophia looks between us. Maybe you two need to talk. Really talk, I'll give you the room. After she leaves, an uncomfortable silence falls. James sits on the floor, stretching his shoulders. I remain standing, arms crossed. You know why this scene isn't working, I say finally. He looks up at me. Because we're pretending this is just choreography and not our actual history. Yes. So what do you want to do about it, Eliza? You've made it clear our past is off limits for discussion. Because there's nothing to discuss. You used me, you humiliated me, my career ended. End of story. He shakes his head. That's not the whole story. It's the only part that matters for this show. Is it? He stands, facing me directly. Because right now, this scene feels one-dimensional. If Michael is just a villain, there's no complexity, no real drama. He's right, and I hate that he's right. So, what are you suggesting? That we actually talk about what happened. Not just the day of the showcase, but everything before and after. Clear the air so we can bring authenticity to these roles? The thought makes me physically nauseous. I've spent years compartmentalizing that pain, sealing it away. This isn't therapy, James, it's work. Sometimes they are the same thing. He steps closer. You're using this show to tell your story, to reclaim your narrative. I respect that. But if you want it to be honest, you have to be willing to hear my side too. Your side? I laugh bitterly. What's your side? That I wasn't good enough? That I was just a stepping stone? That I was terrified, he says quietly. That I saw how good you were and panicked. I stare at him, uncomprehending. What are you talking about? He runs a hand through his hair, a gesture so familiar it makes my chest ache. You were a first-year student with more raw talent than most of the graduating class. When we danced together, people watched you, not me. Marcus Whitfield watched you. That's not true. He offered you the solo contract after I made sure you weren't in the picture anymore. The admission hangs in the air between us. I knew if we continued as partners, eventually you'd outshine me. So, I destroyed your confidence before that could happen. The room spins slightly. This revision of history is too disorienting, too contrary to the narrative I've carried for years. I don't believe you, I say automatically. You don't have to, but it's the truth. He sits back down, suddenly looking exhausted. I was the golden boy with perfect technique but no soul. You were all soul. Together, we were extraordinary, but I couldn't handle being part of a we. I needed to be the star. So you admit you used me? Yes, and I've regretted it every day since. He looks up at me, his expression stripped of its usual confidence. I've watched your career, you know. After the showcase, after you left. I kept expecting to see your name somewhere, downtown, contemporary companies, anything, but you vanished. Because of you, I say, my voice breaking. I know. He doesn't try to defend himself. I didn't realize how completely I'd broken your confidence until you never came back. By then, it was too late. We sit in silence, the weight of the past pressing down between us. Did you ever think of reaching out? I ask finally, apologizing. Many times, but what would I have said? Sorry I ruined your career because I was insecure? Words seemed inadequate. He gestures around the studio. Then I saw the reviews for this show, realized it was you, and thought, maybe there was a way to show you instead. To be part of your comeback story, even as the villain. I don't know what to do with this information, this reframing of a moment that defined my life. It doesn't erase what happened, but it shifts something fundamental in how I've understood it. I need time to process this, I say, standing. Rehearsal's over for today. That night, I can't sleep. James's revelation forces me to re-examine every memory, every interaction from our Juilliard days. Were there signs I missed? Moments where his insecurity showed through the golden boy facade? More disturbingly, if he was right about my talent, what might my career have been if I hadn't let his rejection define me? If I'd picked myself up and continued dancing? The next morning, I arrive at the studio early, needing time alone before the company arrives. To my surprise, James is already there, marking through his solo. He stops when he sees me. I wasn't sure you'd come today. This is my show, I remind him. I'm not going anywhere. I know, you're stronger now. He hesitates. Did you think about what I said? All night. I set down my bag, meet his eyes directly. I don't forgive you, James. What you did was cruel and selfish, regardless of your reasons. He nods, accepting this. But, I continue, I understand it better now, and I think we can use that understanding to make this scene work. How? By being honest with each other in the moment. Not just executing steps, but remembering what it felt like for both of us. The connection, the betrayal, the fear. All of it. That sounds intense. It will be, but that's what this piece demands. When the company arrives, Sophia can immediately sense the shift between us. Everything okay? She asks quietly. It will be, I assure her. Let's run the betrayal scene again. This time, as we move through the choreography, I allow myself to remember not just the pain of rejection, but the joy that came before it. The electric partnership, the sense of possibility, the way dancing with James made me feel invincible until it shattered me. And I can see he's doing the same. Dancing not just Michael, but himself at 20. Ambitious, insecure, making a choice he doesn't fully understand the consequences of. When we reach the moment of betrayal, something breaks open between us. The movement becomes raw, visceral, alive with authentic emotion. I feel tears on my face as I dance the humiliation, the devastation. And I see something new in James's performance. Not just cruelty, but regret taking root in the moment of victory. We finish the scene in silence. The company stares, the energy in the room transformed. That, Sophia says finally, is what this piece is about. From that day forward, rehearsals take on a new intensity. James and I don't discuss our past again directly, but we bring it into the work. Each performance becomes a conversation about ambition, betrayal, forgiveness, and resilience. Opening night at the Patterson arrives all too quickly. The theater is sold out with critics from every major publication in attendance. Backstage, I pace nervously, the old fear threatening to resurface. James finds me in a quiet corner. You okay? Just the usual opening night nerves. I lie. Liar. His smile is gentle. You're thinking about Juilliard, about freezing on stage. I nod, unable to deny it. That's not going to happen tonight, he says with certainty. How do you know? Because you're not that girl anymore. He gestures toward the stage. You created this, Eliza. This is your vision, your story. No one can take that from you. Not the critics, not the audience, and certainly not me. Before I can respond, the stage manager calls places. James squeezes my shoulder once, then disappears to his own starting position. Standing in the wings, I think of Mom, of her last request to see me dance again. I think of the letter she left me. Seed money for your second act. I think of James and the complex truth of our shared past. And I think of myself, not just the girl from Millfield or the Juilliard dropout, but the woman I've become. The artist I've fought to be. The lights dim. The music begins. I step onto the stage. What follows is the performance of my life. Every movement feels charged with meaning, every interaction with James alive, with our complicated history. The audience is with us every step of the way, gasping at the betrayal, silent during the fall, erupting as Phoenix rises from her despair to claim her power. By the final scene, when Phoenix confronts Michael one last time, not for revenge, but for closure, I'm no longer performing. I'm living this moment of catharsis, of letting go, of moving forward on my own terms. The lights fade on the image of Phoenix rising alone, stronger than before. In the darkness, I hear it begin. A single person clapping, then another, then the entire theater on their feet. The ovation lasts 5 minutes. James and I take our bows together, his hand warm in mine. In his eyes, I see respect, regret, and something like pride. Backstage is chaos. Flowers, congratulations, critics asking for quotes. David is ecstatic, already talking about extending the run. They love it, he keeps saying. They absolutely love it. Sophia finds me in the dressing room, away from the crowd. You did it, she says, hugging me fiercely. This is just the beginning, Liz. You know that, right? And for the first time in years, I believe it. The reviews appear online before midnight, unanimously rapturous. Phoenix announces the arrival of a major choreographic voice in Eliza Mitchell. Mitchell's performance is a tour de force of technical brilliance and emotional truth. The chemistry between Mitchell and Peterson creates sparks that illuminate the entire theater. One review from the Times particularly stands out. In Mitchell's Phoenix, we witness not just a performance but a resurrection. 5 years after a promising career was derailed at Juilliard, Mitchell returns to claim her rightful place in New York's dance elite, not as a cautionary tale, but as an artist of singular vision and undeniable power. Her name should be on marquees for many years to come. I read it through tears, sitting on the fire escape of my apartment as dawn breaks over the city. A text arrives from an unknown number. You were extraordinary tonight. You always were. Jay. I don't respond, but I don't delete it either. The next morning, walking to the theater for our second performance, I pass by the Pattersons' Marquee. There it is in lights, larger than life. Phoenix, choreographed by Eliza Mitchell and Sophia Lynn, starring Eliza Mitchell and James Peterson. I stop, staring up at my name. 5 years ago, James Peterson refused to dance with me again, destroying the career I thought I wanted. Today, my name lights the Broadway marquee he cleans with his humbled presence below mine, but the victory isn't in his demotion or my elevation. It's in the fact that I'm still here, still dancing, still creating now on my own terms, telling my own story. And in that story, I'm not defined by one moment of rejection or one person's cruelty. I'm defined by my resilience, by every fall and rise, by the phoenix I became when the fire had burned everything else away. Reaching into my pocket, I touch Mom's letter, worn soft from constant handling. Seed money for your second act. The second act has begun, and this time I'm writing it myself. He begins, and I hold my breath. Exactly what I've been looking for. He wants us both for the ensemble of his new show. It's not a starring role, we'd be dancers in the company performing his choreography, but it's a foot in the door, a real Broadway credit before I've even finished my first year at Juilliard. We start rehearsals in June, Marcus says. I'm expecting big things from both of you. That night, there's a party at an off-campus apartment to celebrate the successful showcase. Everyone's talking about James and me getting picked for Marcus's show. I have never been the center of attention like this before, and it's intoxicating. Or maybe that's the champagne someone keeps refilling in my plastic cup. James finds me on the fire escape around midnight, where I've gone to get air and gather my spinning thoughts. "There she is," he says, climbing out to join me. "Broadway's next big thing." I laugh, giddy with everything. "That's you, not me." "Don't do that," he says, suddenly serious. "Don't diminish what's happening. I'm just being realistic. You're the star, James. I'm just lucky to be your partner." He moves closer, and the air between us feels charged. "Is that all you want to be? My partner?" My heart pounds so hard I'm sure he can hear it. This is the moment I've imagined for months, replayed in my head during sleepless nights. "No," I whisper, "not just your partner." He kisses me then, and the world falls away. His hands frame my face like I'm something precious, something worth careful handling. When we break apart, I'm dizzy with happiness. "I've wanted to do that since our first rehearsal," he admits, his forehead resting against mine. "Why didn't you?" "Because I wasn't sure if what I felt when we danced was real or just—" He trails off. "Just what?" "Just the chemistry we needed to make the performance work." I pull back slightly, searching his face. "And now?" "Now I'm sure." He kisses me again, deeper this time. "It's real, Mitchell. We're real." We stay on that fire escape until the party dwindles inside, talking about the future. Our future. Broadway, maybe film after that. Creating work together, being partners in every sense. By the time we climb back through the window, I'm floating. This is everything I've ever wanted. Recognition for my dancing. Broadway within reach, and James Peterson looking at me like I'm the answer to a question he's been asking his whole life. I should know better than to trust perfect moments. They never last. The next morning, I wake to texts from classmates about the final performance for my year-end evaluation. It's scheduled for that afternoon, a solo piece each first-year student has choreographed for themselves. Mine is a contemporary ballet piece I've been working on for months, about a girl finding her voice. I'm floating on air from last night, replaying every moment with James. I text him, "Nervous about my solo today. See you after?" His response comes an hour later. "Can't make it, busy with Marcus stuff." It's fine, I tell myself. We're both caught up in the Broadway whirlwind. There will be time for us later. When I arrive at the dance theater for the evaluations, something feels off. People are looking at me strangely, conversations stopping when I walk by. I find my friend May from my composition class. "What's going on?" I ask. "Everyone's acting weird." She looks uncomfortable. "You haven't heard? James is performing with Veronica Taylor for the special faculty showcase right before our solos." "What?" My stomach drops. We always dance together for showcases." Apparently, he told faculty he needed someone with more advanced technique for this piece. Her voice is gentle, but the words cut deep. "I'm sorry, Liz. I thought you knew." I don't have time to process this before we're called into the theater. The faculty showcase comes first, featuring exceptional student work selected by teachers, and there he is, James, partnering with Veronica Taylor, a technically flawless third-year student who's never had to work for anything in her life. Their piece is beautiful, clinical in its precision, nothing like the raw, emotional work James and I create together, but the faculty loves it. I watch from the wings, my heart cracking open as his hands hold her the same way they held me just hours before. When they finish, James catches my eye backstage. I don't know what I expect. Guilt? An explanation? Instead, he gives me a cool nod like we're distant acquaintances. "James," I grab his arm as he passes. "What's happening? Last night was fun," he says, voice low enough that only I can hear. But things are moving fast now. Marcus is watching everything I do. "So you cut me out without even telling me?" He glances around, making sure no one is listening. "Look, you're good, Mitchell. Good enough to help me get noticed, but let's be real, you're not at my level, not technically. Marcus took you because you were my partner, but if I'm going to move up in his company, I need to show I can work with the best." The blood drains from my face. I thought you said we were a package deal. His laugh is soft, almost pitying. That was before Broadway came knocking. This is the real world now. You should be grateful I helped get you this far. Before I can respond, my name is called for my solo. I move to the center of the stage in a daze, the lights blinding me. The music starts. A hauntingly beautiful piano piece I've rehearsed to hundreds of times, but my body won't move. I stand frozen as the music plays, as faculty members shift uncomfortably in their seats, as whispers start. I can't breathe, can't think, can't feel anything but a crushing weight on my chest. The music continues its relentless progression while I remain still, exposed under the lights. Someone calls my name. Miss Kovalenko stands, concern etched on her face. Miss Mitchell, are you all right? The room starts to spin. Black spots dance at the edges of my vision. I hear laughter. Is it real or in my head? And I catch a glimpse of James in the wings, Veronica's hand possessively on his arm. I run. Off the stage, through the backstage area, out into the hallway, not stopping until I reach the bathroom where I collapse into a stall and vomit until there's nothing left. Later, I learned that Marcus Whitfield was there, watching my meltdown. By evening, the Broadway offer is rescinded. Just for me, not for James. By the next day, the story has spread through Juilliard like wildfire. Liz Mitchell, the small-town nobody who couldn't handle the pressure, who froze on stage and threw away her one shot. I don't return to my dormitory. Don't answer calls from concerned classmates. Instead, I pack my things and take a bus back to Millfield. My dance shoes left behind in a trash can outside Juilliard's front entrance. Order up! I balance 3 plates along my arm, a skill not entirely unlike dance, though I try never to make that comparison. It's been 2 years since Juilliard, 2 years since I've done more than basic stretches in my bedroom when the ache in my muscles becomes unbearable. Here you go, folks, I say, placing steaming plates of eggs and pancakes in front of the morning regulars at Sally's Diner. They're the same people who've been coming for breakfast every day since I was a child, the same people who watched me grow up and leave for New York with stars in my eyes, then return with those stars extinguished. They're kind enough not to mention it anymore. Thanks, Lizzie, old Pete says, already reaching for the syrup. Your mama coming in for the late shift? I nod, forcing a smile. Just as soon as she's done at the hospital. Physical therapy today. Mom's rheumatoid arthritis has gotten worse in the years I've been home. Some days her hands are so swollen she can barely hold a coffee pot. But she refuses to stop working, even with my contributions to the bills. We Mitchell women don't quit, she says whenever I suggest she cut back her hours. The irony isn't lost on me. My body betrays me daily, muscle memory threatening to turn a simple walk into a plie, arms wanting to rise in port de bras when I reach for the coffee pot. I fight it, forcing my movements to be functional, not beautiful. Beauty is a luxury I can no longer afford. At night, I dream of dancing. I wake up crying. In the 3 years since my return to Millfield, I've avoided all news of Broadway, of dance, of James Peterson. But information finds you anyway, especially in a small town where people think they're being kind by keeping you connected to your passion. Did you see this, Lizzie? Mrs. Henderson asks one afternoon, pushing a newspaper across the counter. That boy you used to dance with. He's doing quite well for himself. There he is in black and white. James Peterson, featured dancer in Marcus Whitfield's groundbreaking new show. The article mentions his meteoric rise and unparalleled technique. My stomach churns. That's nice, I say, taking the paper and shoving it under the counter. More coffee? Later that week, my old roommate from Juilliard calls. May is the only one I've stayed in touch with, the only one who knew the full story of what happened with James. I'm in a new show, she tells me, her voice crackling over the bad connection. Off-Broadway, but still, you should come see it. You know I can't, I say automatically. Can't or won't? She sighs. It's been 3 years, Liz. You can't hide in Millfield forever. I'm not hiding, I'm helping my mom. You're burying yourself alive, she says bluntly. The Liz Mitchell I knew wouldn't let one humiliation define her whole life. That Liz Mitchell was naive. That Liz Mitchell was brave. There's a pause. He asks about you sometimes, you know. My breath catches. I don't want to know that. I thought you should know he doesn't get to just forget you. None of us do. You mattered, Liz. You still matter. After we hang up, I stand in the diner's back alley and let myself do something I haven't in years. I dance. Just a few movements, arms rising, body bending, feet finding positions they haven't held in years. It's like speaking a language I've forced myself to forget, and my body both celebrates and punishes me for the denial. Everything hurts. Everything feels like coming home. I stop abruptly when the back door opens. It's Sally, the diner's owner, watching me with sad eyes. "I didn't know you still did that," she says quietly. I brush past her, back to work, back to forgetting. I don't. Mom's diagnosis comes on a Tuesday. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer, already spread to her liver. The doctor speaks in gentle euphemisms, but the message is clear. Get your affairs in order. Months, not years. "I'm not afraid," Mom tells me that night as we sit on our porch swing, just like we did before I left for Juilliard. "I've had a good life." "Don't talk like that," I say fiercely. "We'll fight this." She takes my hand, her fingers twisted with arthritis but still strong. "Some fights aren't meant to be won, Lizzie. The victory is in how you face them." The months that follow are a blur of hospital visits, medication schedules, and working double shifts to cover the bills that insurance won't touch. I become an expert in pain management, in reading the lines of discomfort around Mom's eyes, in making her laugh even on the worst days. We don't talk about what happens after. I can't bear to. It's a quiet Sunday morning when Mom asks me to dance for her. "I haven't in years," I say, arranging her pillows more comfortably. "I know." Her eyes are clear today, the morphine dose carefully balanced. "That's why I'm asking. I want to see you dance again before I go." "You're not going anywhere," I say automatically. "Elizabeth." She only uses my full name when she's deadly serious. "I'm dying. We both know it. And I have one request." Tears blur my vision. I can't. I don't even know if I remember how. "Your body remembers," she says with certainty. "Dance for me. Not like you did at recitals or competitions. Like you used to in the living room when you thought no one was watching." My throat closes with emotion. Why? Because the greatest grief of my life hasn't been this cancer. It's been watching you give up the thing that made you shine. Her voice breaks. "I want to see my daughter again, not this ghost you've become." That afternoon, I push the furniture in our small living room against the walls. I find an old CD Satya's Gymnopédies, something gentle to start with. Mom watches from her hospital bed, which we moved into the living room last week. I stand in the center of the room, terrified. What if I've forgotten everything? What if my body no longer knows how to speak this language? The music begins, and I close my eyes. For a moment, nothing happens. Then, like water breaking through a dam, movement comes. Not technical, not perfect, but honest, raw. The story of everything I've felt and suppressed these past years, the humiliation, the grief, the anger, the love. I dance until the CD ends, until sweat soaks my shirt and tears stream down my face. When I finally stop, Mom is crying too. "There you are," she whispers. "There's my Lizzie." 2 weeks later, she's gone. After the funeral, I find a letter in her nightstand drawer, along with her bank book. "My dearest Elizabeth, if you're reading this, I've taken my final bow. Don't grieve too long. I've had a beautiful life, with you as its greatest joy. I'm leaving you what little I've saved. It's not much, but it's enough for a fresh start. Call it seed money for your second act. We all get humiliated, baby. We all fail. The ones who make history are those who get back up and try again, wearing their scars proudly. Go back to New York, not for James, not for validation, but for you. Dance again, live again, shine again. All my love, Mom." The bank book shows a balance of $18,456.29. Every spare dollar she'd managed to save over a lifetime of waitressing, even while paying for my dance lessons, even while I was contributing to the bills these past years. Seed money for my second act. I dance at her grave the next morning as dawn breaks over the cemetery. It's my goodbye, my promise, my first steps back to myself. New York hasn't changed, but I have. I find a tiny apartment in Washington Heights, far from the Lincoln Center area where Juilliard memories lurk around every corner. It's a fifth-floor walk-up with suspicious water stains on the ceiling and neighbors who fight in Spanish at 3 a.m. But it's mine, a fresh start. The first time I walk into an open dance class, my heart hammers so hard I think I might pass out. I choose a studio I've never been to before, where no one knows my name or my history. The teacher is a former Martha Graham dancer, all angles and intensity. "New face," she says, noticing me hanging back. "Where do you dance?" "Nowhere," I say, "not for a long time." She raises an eyebrow but doesn't press. "Well, let's see what you've got." I take a spot at the back of the room, as far from the mirrors as possible. When the music starts, muscle memory takes over. The familiar patterns of plies, tendes, dégages. My technique is rusty, my turnout weaker than it once was, but my body remembers. With each combination, I feel something long dormant awakening. After class, the teacher approaches. "You've had serious training." I nod, bracing for the inevitable questions. Instead, she says, "There's something interesting in your movement. Raw, unguarded. Come back tomorrow." I do, and the day after that. I take class every day, sometimes twice. I work nights at a bar near Columbia University, serving drinks to graduate students who never ask why a woman my age is starting over. Gradually, I feel my body returning to me. Not the body I had at 18, but something new. Stronger in some ways, more vulnerable in others. I develop my own style of movement that honors my classical training but breaks the rules when necessary. I dance like I have nothing to prove and everything to express. 6 months after returning to New York, I meet Sophia. She crashes into the studio 10 minutes late, dropping her bag dramatically. Sorry, subway disaster." The teacher rolls her eyes but smiles. "Everyone, this is Sophia Lin. She'll be visiting from San Francisco for the month. She's a choreographer you all should know." Sophia is a hurricane of energy, tiny but powerful, with a creative mind that seems to work at double speed. After class, she corners me. "You," she says, pointing directly at my chest. "Where have you been hiding?" I laugh nervously. "I'm not hiding. Your movement quality it's like watching someone speak a language they invented. Who do you dance with?" "No one," I admit. "I just take class." Her eyes widen. "Criminal, absolutely criminal. Have coffee with me, now." Over cappuccinos, I find myself telling Sophia a carefully edited version of my story. Juilliard, yes. The humiliation, yes. James, not by name. Just a partner who betrayed me, and stage fright that ended my career before it began. She listens without interruption, then says, "So you ran away and buried your gift for years, and now you're back but playing it safe by hiding in the back of class." She shakes her head. "What a waste." "Excuse me. You heard me. You've been through the fire and came out with something genuine to say, but you're whispering when you should be shouting." She leans forward. "I'm choreographing a piece while I'm in town. Nothing major, just a small showcase. Be in it." "I don't perform anymore." "Bullshit. You perform every day in class. I've seen you when you think no one's watching. You're not marking the combinations. You're dancing full out. You're performing for yourself. That's different. Why? Because no one can reject you if no one sees you?" She sits back. "I get it. Being visible is terrifying, but invisibility is a slow death for artists like us." I don't say yes that day or the next, but I help Sophia develop movement phrases for her piece, offering suggestions, demonstrating possibilities. We work after hours in the studio, experimenting with her choreographic ideas. It feels good to create again, even if I'm just a body translating someone else's vision. One night, after a particularly intense session, Sophia says, "You could be choreographing your own work." I shake my head. I wouldn't know where to start. "Yes, you would. You already have a story worth telling." She gestures to my body. "It's written all over you. The girl who lost everything and found her way back. People need to see that, Liz." "What if I freeze again? What if I can't handle being watched? Then you'll have tried and failed honestly instead of hiding and wondering what if for the rest of your life." She squeezes my shoulder. "Just think about it." I do think about it. I think about Mom's letter seed money for your second act. I think about the girl who danced with a broomstick in Millfield, who didn't care who was watching because the joy was in the movement itself. I think about James Peterson and what he took from me, Not just a Broadway opportunity, but my belief in my own voice. The next day, I tell Sophia I'll dance in her showcase. Not in the core, she clarifies. I want to create a solo for you. My stomach drops. A solo means all eyes on me. Exactly. Her smile is challenging. Time to reclaim your spotlight, Eliza Mitchell. It's the first time in years anyone has called me by my full name.
Okay. Okay. Are we done? Yes. Okay. It will go straight to our heads. I know. It's too late. It's all too late for that. You're laughing. Twitch is already thinking about it. Guess I'll watch it. Yeah, go watch a Lord of the Rings movie. Exactly. Also, how are you, Thought? Okay. Paying attention. I have to wait until the ads are over because this is going to take about 17 seconds to complete. Siri, set timer for 3 hours. Hi, crazy drunk. How you doing? Oh, 8-hour ad on YouTube? No, Jan. Stop. That's rotten.